Welcome to Talksicololgy, brought to you by Recovery Unplugged, the place where we talk about all things substance abuse, recovery, and mental health, with guests offering varying perspectives and viewpoints. Hosts Joseph Gordo and Jason Cabello share about their addiction and recovery and other serious subject matter through lighthearted yet candid conversation. So Dean Anderson, we just met recently by happenstance.
Yeah.
Shout out to Rachel Jackson.
Thank you, Rachel.
Rachel, we love you. Big friend of the show. Just said like, hey, I know this guy from LinkedIn who wrote a book, and I think y'all should meet. So
Yeah, it's a small world. Apparently, we know a lot of the same people, but I guess that happens in recovery. So.
Right. So your book is tell us
Finding Myself Sober. I had written a book before this about relationships, but it was kind of like a starter one.
Right.
And this is the one that had my whole heart in it. It just came from the fact that I had had about 9 years sober when I wrote it, and I just know a lot of people that didn't necessarily want to do a 12-step program, but were trying in different ways to try to get sober. And there were some certain things and principles that I learned in a 12-step program that outline this book entirely. It just happens to be 12 chapters. I think that was by accident, but it covers those principles that we learned in life, but probably lost along the way, and how a 12-step recovery program basically instills those principles back in you. It kind of simplifies it.
Right. And it's so funny because you'll always hear like, man, if normies could just get a grasp on, the things that we do, and they don't have to go through like the hardest part of it.
No, I wish everybody could get what we get in that first year and just hand it to them in a bottle, but they just doesn't work that way. They've got to suffer first.
Yeah, that's true.
And I did too, and I'm sure you did too. So
yeah,
it's part of hitting that bottom and bouncing back up that you get to pass that story on, and it might be similar to everybody else's, but it's just different enough.
Yeah.
That it might relate to this guy over here rather than this guy over here.
Yeah, and just the things that you learn how to like help other people. And one of the things that I always say, one of the hardest thing, at least for me, like in early recovery was like, or before even early recovery, because I found my sponsor a couple years before I ultimately got clean, but was just going up to another dude and being like, hey man, is it cool if I call you every single day for the rest of my life?
Right?
And then that, and saying like, I'm scared and I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me?
Well, we're so isolated at the end, like we don't even know how to have conversations anymore.
Right.
Right. We're sweating by the time we walk up to somebody and be like, hey, can I call you tonight? Because I don't think I want to drink tonight. You know what I mean? And that's one of the weirdest things for me, that friendship early on with alcohol was kind of easy. Like people call it a lubrication, but for me, it was like it drops all your inhibition, sure, but it made you feel a lot better than you felt inside, temporarily. So you had no problem approaching people. But when you get sober, I was scared of everything when it first started. No, I didn't know how much I was scared of until I got sober.
It's raw.
It is. And it's frightening because it's strangers. But yet that was the soothing part about it. Like when I first went into the program, I just realized that, oh my God, everybody in this room shares the same solution. Even if our backdrops are a little different, they even talk about how it wouldn't be people you normally hang out with, right?
Right.
But all of a sudden it is. Like that first year of my sobriety, I was hanging out with guys that were like 65 years old. And I remember my father coming to visit from Boston. He was just like, these are your best friends? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was just kind of funny. And I was like, these people are saving my life. And he understood it because he knew that was the only thing that could get me sober at that time because nothing else did.
And you got sober here in Austin?
I did. I'm not going to say I couldn't have got sober in Boston, but it would have been tough.
Yeah.
The crew we ran with for so many years, it was just a lifestyle. Not a lot of them have gotten sober since. Not all of them are alcoholics either, or drug addicts. But when we lost a few to fentanyl, but it just would have been harder for me to do it there. And what I found here was that, I don't know if it's because of the music scene, if Austin's just a cool city, but I hate to say it was kind of cool to be sober, but it was certainly accepted.
A lot different.
And it just, the meetings were not like hush-hush in a basement. They were like kind of wide open. They had clubhouses and stuff. And like, I didn't even mind telling people. I've always been kind of out about sobriety anyway. I guess I recover loudly to, help those that are still suffering silently. But to me, it was never something to hide this last time I got sober. It just became very well accepted by my whole circle around me. And then the circle got bigger and got bigger and got bigger. And it just, that first year was just getting in the middle of the herd, which is the hardest part. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to be in the middle of anything or people looking at you. But
Right. So did you move out here to get sober? Or
No.
was it just sort of happened?
no,
like that?
if that were the case, I would have had how many years? 10 fewer years of
Okay.
suffering. But I had moved out here with my wife and kids in 2003, and the first step to me really going down a rabbit hole was that I always drank heavy, but now I was working from home. And there was like no accountability, and I just went down a rabbit hole. And I remember that day that I first drank in the morning like it was yesterday, and that kind of spiraled off because I really thought I had found the key to everything at that point. And I drank round the clock and was able to kind of do that for a few years, probably thinking nobody was noticing, but everybody was. But by the end, I was drinking and passing out 3 times per day.
Jesus.
And never knew what day it was. If it was light or dark, I had no idea. It was absolute oblivion for quite a few years, and until I lost it all and practically given away my kids, got divorced, all that kind of stuff. And 2013 is when everything started to change.
That's one of those crazy feelings that's really hard to articulate unless you've been through it. But when you wake up, you don't know, like, is it dark because it's super early in the morning? Is it dark because it's nighttime?
Yeah.
There's a 9. Is it 9 a.m.? Is it 9 p.m.?
Yeah.
Like, I used to get just so wasted on just every substance you could think of. And just like waking up, and I remember one time, I don't even think I knew who I was. Like, I woke up and it was just
I've
like,
been there.
I don't know what's happening. I don't know. Like, I know this is where I live, but that's all I could put together at this point. Like,
I called a VP at our company at 7 o'clock at night thinking it was 7 in the morning.
Oh, shit.
Now, granted, he's kind of one of us anyway. And he was like, why don't we talk about it tomorrow? And I was like, okay. And I just remember asking my daughter, she's like, yeah, it's 7 p.m. And I was like, okay. And I didn't know how many days I had been out, never mind hours. Because at that stage, my oldest daughter was almost out of the house. She saw me at my worst because she was the only one staying with me. And I mean, we've been through all kinds of amends and all that kind of stuff, but like, I feel bad about what she probably saw that last year, because I have really no memory I went into treatment in 2012 and it didn't stick, and it had nothing to do with the treatment. It was all me.
Right.
5 months after treatment, I somehow convinced myself that if I just drank enough not to go back to rehab, that was my thought. And it spiraled so quickly. The people I recovered with were really putting a timeline on things. They would notice in every relapse I had, because I was labeled a chronic relapser.
Right.
Every time I relapsed, I didn't realize, because I'm in oblivion, that the relapses got shorter and shorter and shorter. So like by the time at the very end I was drinking, I was back in there talking to those guys usually weeks later, but to me it had been 6 months. Or I would end up in the hospital. You know what I mean? It was round the clock drinking. And once you start drinking vodka to that degree, I feel like that's the worst one. I know cops that are retired that said people coming off of vodka, it's not like whiskey, it's not like tequila. For some reason, it's like bad hallucinogen. And you're out of your mind and don't even know where you are or who you are. And that's pretty much where I was at.
So what's the longest, besides now, what's the longest time that you've put together without having a drink?
In 2010, my ex-wife, who's passed now, but she, from the same disease, but she said, I'm leaving with the kids if you don't stop drinking. And I didn't care much about the marriage, to be honest with you, but I didn't want to lose my kids. So I'm like, all right, I'll get sober. And I found it surprisingly easy, and I don't know why that is. I went 9 months sober that time. And I had convinced myself, I think I was at a softball game, and somebody said, you want a beer? And I thought, it's been 9 months, man. Like, and I sat and probably stared at that beer for what felt like 20 minutes, but it was probably 30 seconds.
Right.
And I drank it and I was off to the races again. But I just felt like sobriety came too easy. I must not be an alcoholic. And I had convinced my parents, I convinced friends, I convinced everybody that I would have been fine.
Yeah.
And I maybe successfully did that for another 6 months. And then I had like really short stints of sobriety, like a stack of 30-day chips, or something like that. And then in 2013, I finally decided, when I moved out of that house, kind of downsized and moved into a new place, I swore I'd never drink in that house. And I know geographic changes don't work, but for me, something stuck. I said, I'm never going to drink in this home. And I didn't. And everything fell into place after that, where I had to fight to get custody of my daughter back, and I won. That's incredible for a drunk. And there's a long story behind that. But then I had met the love of my life, who's also in recovery, and she had moved in really quickly, and we all became this blended family. And it's like God put a lot of weird things together for it to kind of work out the way it did, where he almost said to me, in some weird thought in my head, now you can't drink. And I can't explain that, but I can.
The options off the table.
Yeah,
completely.
or just put so many things in front of me and said, you can't because of this, you can't because of that. And when you push everybody away and you're drinking all day, every day, you don't think of what you could lose because you don't even care if you necessarily die. That's how I felt. I don't have the courage to kill myself, nor did I want to die. But I did convince myself several times that if I don't wake up, I'm 37, at the time, like maybe there'll be people at the funeral.
I've seen enough.
It's so absurd when you think about it, because so much of my life, I had a good childhood, but so much of my life after getting sober, so many great things have happened that it's just, it doesn't make sense.
And how old were you when you ultimately got sober?
39. 39. And I'm 51 now.
Yeah.
So it's been 12 years this month.
Yeah, I'm 50, and I got clean at 42. Yeah. So it was, I understand that. Like, well, I'm getting clean. The best years are definitely behind me, but at least, I'm not going to be dope sick anymore or whatever.
Right.
And then, without knowing what I was doing, just with that putting one foot in front of the other,
right.
Like I couldn't make up the shit that I have now. Like I couldn't make up the fucking life that I lead today. Like, and all I wanted was to not be sick. Like that's all I wanted when I got clean. I was just tired of being a fuck up. And I remember, and I think this is probably a big part of why it was just the acceptance of like, I don't need some crazy life. I don't need to go back to what I think I used to have and all this. Like, I just want to live a life that I could, like, when I put my head in the pillow at night, if it's just me working at like Whole Foods or Trader Joe's and then having like a little studio apartment. I was in Fort Lauderdale when I got clean. Like, I'll be happy with that. As long as I don't have to feel like this griminess every single day and this just like Groundhog's Day of just crap. Like, I think once I finally took that into like internalized it to like, I don't need all this fancy crap. I just don't want to do what I was doing anymore. And then I don't know how it happened, but things just started to get better and my living situations got better and I met a great woman and then we moved out to Austin together, and it's just all these things just started happening.
It is a magical city.
It is a pretty cool place, except for the summers. God, it's so fucking hot,
I'm from up north, so it's like I want to. That's way too hot.
Yeah, I got Chicago blood too. I was born.
Oh, you told
Chicago.
me that. That's right. So, I forgot about that.
So it's like I like this weather outside now. What is it like 50 in the afternoon? Like I could go for 5 years of this every single day.
I could too. I'll do Groundhog Day on that.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
But that 100+ degrees.
I think the only difference between you and me in that regard is that I had convinced myself that my life was good. Not my marriage.
Right.
But it fucking wasn't. If you go back and look at it, like it was jacked up and the fact that I had convinced myself that life was going well, I just wanted to keep my job. I was in sales. So sales, I don't know. I didn't know if I could sell sober, for starters.
Right.
And two, it comes with that territory. And I was traveling a lot and all that comes with it. Sales is not like that anymore. Not because I'm sober, but because the sales landscape has changed in the last, you're almost my age, like we're the same age. So it's just the way we go out and sell is a lot different anyhow. But in general, I just thought I wouldn't be able to do it. And getting sober, like the first principle I even talk about in that book is honesty. And like, that's a bitch. Like we lie about everything, and we don't even know that we're doing it. Like I even talk about it in a section there under honesty, where it's like, when I first got sober, not only did I have to be honest with everybody, honest with myself, but if I caught myself even telling the most bullshit, no reason lie, the guys who I got sober would say, you got to call yourself out on those. So think how fucking embarrassing when you're sitting with somebody and you're like, you know what? I didn't even go to the movie to see that movie yesterday. Like, I don't even know why I said that. Because that's the stuff that alcoholics do. You know what I mean? And they'd be like, okay. If it was a normie, forget that conversation, it's done. But with a drunk or a drug addict, they'd be like this. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I get it. You just wanted to fit in today, whatever. You know what I mean? It's just, honesty is such a hard thing to do. So when I got sober, I was kind of like you in the sense that all right, kept my job somehow. I don't know how I did it. My CEO gave me another shot, and I work with two guys I grew up with and drank with. Okay. And they stuck their necks out for me, and I ended up staying with the company, and still am with them 26 years later, which is kind of crazy. Right. And they've got to see me change over the last 10 years too. 12 years now, I guess. But in general, I just wanted to build small things. I just wanted to be happy with me. I was like full of shame, full of guilt. My parents are still alive. Like, all I wanted to do was have them look at me like they weren't worried, just once. Because they would come out here from either Florida or Boston to come for holidays. And the look on their face, they may not know, but they look horrified at what I look like and what I acted like. And I'm not the guy, like a lot of people have years of drinking, they end up, withering down to nothing, they're not eating. That was not me. I was a fat shit. Like, I was sweating, like crying, like I was an emotional drunk anyway. Like, alcohol did me no good those last 3 years. I looked like hell. I was 232 and whatever pounds. Wow. Just didn't fit what anybody knew what I looked like or acted like back home. So I don't think, like, even some people back home would be like, you sure you're an alcoholic? Because they were with me in that stage of 15 to 25. It's pretty functional. Did some dumb shit, but I was functional. Right. And they didn't get to see those last 10 years. I'm kind of grateful for that. That's what I mean? Because I go back home now, they're glad I'm sober. Some of them have gotten sober, some haven't. But it's way more acceptable now, especially at 51 years old. Like, I look pretty pathetic walking into bars at this age doing what I was doing at 25,
So let's think about like the times when your parents are coming to visit you, right? So you're drinking all day from the time you wake up to the time you pass out here or there. What does it look like when you're around somebody who you don't want to see? You don't want them to see you drink like you're drinking. What is your consumption like when somebody's around you and you're around your parents?
I had a weird process. Both, this is going to seem only normal to an alcoholic, but I'll compare it to how I did it with sales because it was fairly similar. Like, if I had to go on the road, I would sober up for 5 days, have the shakes go through full withdrawals, and get to the point where you start feeling like you're thirsty. And I don't mean for alcohol, for like soda, anything. Because when I would start to feel thirsty, I would realize, all right, I'm just about out of that withdrawal for 5 days. And I would feel pretty good going on that road. So I'd get drunker quicker, but it wasn't that. I couldn't go out there in the condition I was in, or I'd have the shakes, or I would sometimes you'd get up in the morning and have a drink and you'd be fine. It would level you out. But then another day, for whatever reason, you're annihilated after like 3 drinks because it's always in your bloodstream.
You're just opening.
I couldn't do that on the road because it was too much pressure and too much riding on what I was doing out there. So similar thing to my parents. If they were coming in for Christmas, I would probably 4 days before they got there, I would go through full withdrawals, tell people I had the flu in the house, and just be like, oh, I must have got the flu again. I hope this passes before they get there for Christmas. And they'd get there. And by that day, I was pretty good. So it wasn't that I wouldn't drink. My parents usually stay for like 5 days. So basically, I think by day 3 or 4, I'm already, vodka in the garage, hidden all over the house, places I'm drinking, because they knew I drank, so they didn't care if we had wine in the house or went out to dinner and drank. The times I'd get nervous is if I was supposed to drive, like everybody out to dinner. I'm like, they don't know that I'm a pint of vodka and like a double bottle of wine or something in my system. They all think we had one cocktail in the house. So I had to work my way around that and that type of thing. But it was just it was a full-time job, man.
Yeah.
Not only drinking if you were in that zone and always annihilated, but trying to act normal by getting so, because when I'd go visit them in Florida, I'd do the same thing. I'd have to sober up, go through heavy withdrawals. So the only difference when I got sober, like at the end here, I couldn't do that withdrawal thing again. I was too far gone. I thought I might die if I stopped drinking. And I had promised myself I wouldn't check into rehab again.
Yeah, had you ever had any seizures or anything while you were detoxing?
Not that I remember.
Right.
I remember I have a weird memory of going to my ex-wife's house. I was so bad that the kids had her come get me and get there and put me in her home, which is not what I wanted. And I have a memory of not being able to walk a hallway and passing out, but also puking blood.
Ooh. I
have no memory of what happened. She never explained it to me. We weren't on great terms anyway. I think she just didn't want to see the father of her kid to die, So that is the only time I think I could have had a seizure, but don't remember. And she was trying to prevent, it's so messed up. She was trying to prevent me from having a seizure too. So I think she was giving me either Xanax or Ativan or something to level me out through the withdrawals. And that's like very foggy because she was hiding it from the kids because she had a prescription drug problem. So it was like, we were not good together anyway, but she did save my life twice. She got me to the ER when I ended up blowing a .39 that last time before treatment. And I don't remember getting there.
Right.
I wasn't living with it. I texted her and I said, I think I've gone too far. I have no memory of this. She came over, said, I need to take you to the hospital. I said no, like every alcoholic. She said, let's go for a drive. We'll roll down the windows. And this is her telling me the story later. And she tricked me into the car, got me into the hospital, and that was my last hospital stay before I went to treatment.
So when you're doing that, when you're detoxing yourself, you're going like about 5 days, you say, without a drink?
That would be the norm.
About 5 days.
It could be a week depending on how bad of a bender I was on, like leading up to it.
Then what does it feel like going for that first drink after the 5 days?
I mean, it's a relief, but it's to be honest, it's more of a relief like if I was 2 days in. You know what I mean? Because I'm having the shakes, it levels me out. You know, I used to tell people this is insane, but during those moments where I was having withdrawals or like I ran out of alcohol and by the next day I'm shaking like a leaf, I'm better at the time in my head. I was better driving after 8 beers to level me out than to be driving at that moment where you can't even hold the steering wheel or almost vomit on yourself.
Right.
So to answer your question, if I went 5 days or 7 days, I feel completely normal. I feel like I could run a marathon. I can't because I'm a fat piece of shit and I'm and I'm sweating and I'm a mess, right? But I feel good. So that first drink was more like, okay, how much am I going to drink on this trip, or how much am I going to drink in front of people? Because I know it's going to escalate quickly. I had the ability, at least at most times in my life, if I did that full withdrawal, I could drink fairly responsibly for maybe a couple of days while somebody's visiting or on the road. And then the moment I'm back, I am just in that zone again, and I'm drinking around the clock.
So you were able to control your drinking at some point. It's
only coming off those withdrawals. Like,
okay, so
you know what I'm saying?
You put in the 5-7 days, you could have a couple of beers, and
that was only for like an event, like whether it be someone visiting or me flying somewhere or me
in a work
on the road
event
for
or
work.
something like that.
Yeah, I can't go into a trade show drinking all around the clock, so I wouldn't. You know what I mean? And I would have felt great going out to that event because I'm now 7 days sober. I'm not right in the head. So but I'm physically better.
Is your mindset like, okay, well, I got 7 days now, I'm going to see how long I could do it? Or is it, I can't wait till I get home so I could really start?
Oh, I can't wait till I get home. There was none of that had any intention to quit drinking.
I just need to quit drinking for a few days.
Yeah.
And then once I get back home.
In order to not get fired.
And then what does it look like when you get back home after this stuff and then you're like, okay, it's back on? Is it just like guzzling vodka? Is it...
It's pretty quick. I think it depends on what year it was. But yeah, I think in my early 30s, I didn't want to scare because I didn't get divorced till the year before I went to treatment. So I was also trying not to alarm her into what I was doing. You know what I mean? Like I was hiding alcohol every day from her. Like the best days is when she came home from work and I heard her crack a Coors Light. I'm like, now we're on. Right. And even though I'm already drunk, she's not going to watch what I'm doing. She's going to be interested in what she's doing. But I think maybe it became a game again. And there was some sort of adrenaline rush for me on how badly I could hide it and how bad I could get without other people knowing, at least in my head.
Okay.
Because my kids, both of them, except my oldest who saw me in the last year, both of them will tell you like, they thought it was pretty funny when I was drinking because I would do more crazy things with them. Like I was never angry. Like I was just, I mean, I'm 0 to 90, I suppose, in getting how drunk I get, but they're in bed by the time I get to that stage. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I thought I was balancing it well and I wasn't.
Luckily you weren't a mean drunk around your kids. You were pretty jubilant and fun to be around.
Probably embarrassing if it was in a public setting, but we didn't do a public setting because I went from drinking in bars where I grew up to by the time we moved down here and I'm working from home, by the time 4 o'clock rolls around, I have more drinks than most people are leaving the bar. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to go to a bar. I became a home drinker, period. And that's how it ends for a lot of people anyway. But I started doing that because I didn't want to DUI. Somehow I escaped all DUIs. Worst I had to do is drive 300 yards to a gas station.
Wow. Okay. So growing up, you grew up in Boston proper?
No, about a half an hour south. So, we're about 20 minutes north of Cape Cod, half an hour east of Providence, and half an hour south of Boston. So great place to grow up.
Yeah.
Tiny town, barely had a gas station or traffic light in it, but there was nothing to do, so we found ways.
You and your friends just started drinking?
Really early, yeah. Probably 13 or 14, I guess, when we started. We probably could have started younger. We just followed our older brothers and what they did and all that. And it was a lifestyle that we actually didn't know it was abnormal until I went to college at UMass. Mm-hmm. And UMass is known as a party school.
Right.
And we would go there and all of my insane friends would come up and act like they're at school there and sleep on the floor. And there'd be 20 people from my hometown every weekend, crashing there. And we would go out and we would do things. And we didn't start understanding it until people said, I don't know what's in the water in that town of yours, but like, you guys are out of your fucking minds. And
But
we thought it was normal for everybody.
right, and Boston's a pretty heavy drinking town too, so that
Yeah.
for you to stand out
Yeah.
and be like, everybody in your fucking neighborhood
The
is
whole town is like that. I mean, it may not be now, but
Right.
during our era of the 80s and 90s, it was an insane asylum. But we had so much fun doing it. We didn't think we were hurting anybody. But we just ran hard and acted like lunatics, and it drew people in. Like I still feel bad to this day. Some people would be like, you guys are wild. And before you knew it, they were hanging around with us long enough. They were part of that circle. If you did something crazy enough, like you were one of us.
And what kind of stuff were you doing as a teenager? Are you guys like going to like sporting events? Are you guys going to concerts? What kind of...
In my town, there's not, I mean, yes, there's sports, and it's a good sports town. Basketball was probably the biggest town and biggest sport in our town. But it was like it was a beautiful town. Like my wife now came from nothing. She grew up in the projects in Houston. She's like, she goes to my town expecting this to be like crazy town, you know, and she's like, this looks like fucking Mayberry. You know?
Right.
Well, it does,
like a
but
Norman
there's not
Rockwell painting.
right, and there's nothing in it. But like every weekend there was like what they call a pit party.
Mm-hmm.
They were these gravel pits because it was either full of golf courses, cranberry bogs, or gravel pits. And when she broke in through a gate that was chained up at these pits, there was enough of them that we knew about, and they'd rechain it. We'd go pick another. We just had big bonfires and pit parties all the time, and it was like clockwork. Because if you didn't, like, you could only have a party if somebody's parents were out of town, like when we were real young, you know? So that's what we did. But yes, most of us were kind of athletes. And that's what we did when we weren't playing sports.
Mm-hmm.
I think my dad always told me, you want to stay out of jail? I'm putting you in sports. And I played baseball and soccer, and I think it did. I think the idea of getting in too much trouble at school and getting kicked off the team was too much of a threat to me. So while I was getting annihilated every weekend, I was acting fairly normal in school. And, you know, we did a lot of vandalizing and just dumb shit that kids do.
Yeah,
you know?
knucklehead stuff.
Right. And that all came with it because we were just out of our minds bored in a town that was fun only because we were all in it, not because there was a lot of things to do.
What moved you out to Austin?
I worked for a company that I was selling in the Southeast. So I actually moved to North Carolina first for 3 years.
Where at?
Raleigh, a little town called Holly Springs.
Okay.
You know that. And we moved there. I loved it. My ex-wife didn't like it at all. She was originally from Texas. She always wanted to go back to Texas. So I had a contractor that worked for me out of Minneapolis that moved for a contract job in IT to Austin. And I was just talking on the phone one day. He was like, hey, don't you have a conference down here? I said, no, it's in San Antonio. He goes, come up and stay with me for like the weekend, and I'll show you around Austin. And he knew what he was doing. Like
Right.
I was down 4th, 5th, 6th Street, and then he showed me hill country, showed me the lakes, because I always grew up around water. I was near Cape Cod, so I couldn't, ocean's a little different from a lake, but either way it was water.
Yeah.
And I was sold. I came back, my ex-wife was like ecstatic. She's just like, I don't care, but she wanted to move to Dallas, and I do not like Dallas, no offense to Houston or Dallas. I just loved Austin because I'd been to other places, and Dallas seemed like they didn't like me. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, maybe it was the accent or something, but Austin, they don't care. There was a conversation piece. They were happy you were here from up north, at least back then. And it was cool. Like we moved here within 2 months of me going on that trip, and we were here in 2003, moving from North Carolina. So I just had to leave Massachusetts because I felt like there was too many skeletons in my closet. Maybe it was delusional and it wasn't, but I knew I was burning out, and drugs started to seep in.
Okay.
A lot of Oxycontin at that time, and there was like around 2000, and there was just meth was not a big thing up there.
Right.
Like people did, if you had money, I guess you could do some cocaine or whatever. People did a lot of hallucinogens.
The blues were coming into town.
Yeah, and once the oxys came in, those same athletes who had injuries or whatever started taking it for that reason, and graduated to heroin. And I lost one of my, if not my best friend up north to fentanyl a few years back. So. And the last guy, just like any, has no prejudice. The last guy you think would do heroin, he was just an alcoholic like me, and he
just got a hold of something.
And he didn't drink at all, but we didn't know he had switched to heroin. I had moved away, and I love that man. But he passed away a few years back, and I got out when I did, and I think I would have been. I wouldn't say I'd been doing heroin, but I would have eventually, if I had jumped in the oxy pool, I would have been there pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah,
Because I'm not the guy who wants to be amped up. I'm the guy who wants to drool on himself.
Oh, then yeah, that definitely would have.
Yeah. So that's where I was headed. And my parents don't believe that, but I know that the risk was there if I stayed.
Yeah, that's what got me is I was living in Broward County, Florida at the time, and that was just pill mill. That's where it was.
I forgot, that's right.
And it was just everybody in my neighborhood that I lived in, it was like the boating industry. So it was a lot of people who just had injuries, and you could go to a doctor, and then once they found out that the database was so that you could go doctor shopping and you wouldn't be flagged in the database. So, I mean, you could go to doctor to doctor.
I read about that. It was insane.
And I mean, we were getting,
that's what got you on your.
I mean, I was already partying, but that's what once it was so easy too, because street prices for the 30 milligram Roxy's where I was living was like under, like $5 was a lot for one. Like you could get them for like $3, like at one time. So, and I mean, I know now, I mean, I don't even know if you can get them anymore with the pressed pills and everything, but when I got clean, they were like $30 each.
Yeah, I don't know what they were in the end, but you and I are out of the street game now where you feel left out.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I don't know the prices, but yeah, when I got clean, they were like $30 a piece, and it was...
Yeah, well, that explains why my buddy, he wasn't making $1 million. He was... I don't know what level he was up to, how many pills he was taking a day, but that would have gotten expensive fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not surprising. I never knew what the price was at the end because luckily I just ran away from that circle fast.
You just saw it creeping up on you?
I don't know what it was. It was a bunch of things together, but it was right at that time that I got out, which was the right time. Because when I got down here, I'm sure it was around, but that wasn't what was thrown at me. I moved into suburbia and everybody was just getting bombed and drunk or whatever. So I'm like, this is perfect. Alcohol did exactly what I asked it to do. And I am a garden variety drunk. Mm-hmm. It's not that I probably wouldn't have loved drugs. Alcohol, it's
so accessible and it's right there.
I guess so.
And you know what to expect.
Irish background and everybody, the weird thing for me was neither of my parents were alcoholics. My brother's not an alcoholic either. He drank a lot when we were young, but he didn't have the same issue I did. But we didn't find out till really later. The family history was it was a lot of cirrhosis, people dying of cirrhosis, a lot of in Boston. So, I mean, I guess I had it coming anyway. It is weird and maybe it took me longer to face it because I was the only one in my family who was struggling with it. Mm-hmm. But my dad knew. He grew up with very alcoholic parents, loved his parents, but they were like crazy alcoholic. The only thing that was weird about his dad died the year I was born, and his mom, my grandfather's wife, my grandmother, quit the day of, or at least like a couple weeks after, never had a drink again.
Wow.
Like that generation and no program, like just, that whole generation's crazy.
Yeah.
We're softer than them, I think.
Oh, definitely.
You know what I mean? Like it's crazy that she didn't drink again after that. So I never saw alcohol in my family. Like my dad had a cabinet, we stole it all. You know what I mean? But he was getting like gifts for like the business he owned and he would just put them in a cabinet. But he never drank in the house.
Wow.
He would drink at dinner or something, but that was it. He warned me. Don't get me wrong. But I just thought, well, whatever, dude. Like I've got a high tolerance. I'm good.
Did he warn you and say, like, look, this is in your heritage, your DNA?
You just don't think it's gonna happen to you. I mean, I just talked to my daughter this morning. Someone said to me, I guess I was in college or high school. We were at a bowling alley, and someone said, "Why do you and so and so have to drink everywhere we go?" And I was like, "Well, I could go bowling with you tonight and not drink. But it's going to be a lot funner if we do."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that was my thought. So I never thought I had a problem. I just thought I'm expanding the fun factor here.
Yeah, it's that much more fun.
I never expected to get as embarrassing and like bad that I got. And I don't think even my mom had to learn through like me being on podcast to figure out how bad it was. Because I wasn't, I mean, I've been living away from Boston since I was 25. So when she heard me go on someone's show, whatever, talk about it just like I'm doing here, she's like, holy shit, I did not know it was like that. I'm like, why would I tell you that? Like, you probably knew to a certain degree because I would disappear for weeks and not return calls and things. But I don't think you know till you hear the human being say it. Yeah. That's been in the middle of it.
And it's crazy that, like, you live it. So you know the stories in your head and then you start you're telling them all the time at meetings, with sponsee, stuff like that. And you forget, like, maybe not everybody knows this particular story, but then, you start coming on more public forums.
My kids knew more than my parents did because I'm protective of them because I was a bit of a wild child, so they just assumed I was going to be the crazy one probably. But I didn't want them ever knowing what was happening, And I learned since getting sober too that even with my parents now, like and I get this a lot from my wife. Dude, I don't deserve her. Like I do now. I can say that. But like, she's like
that's a good feeling.
A gift. Like we've been together over 10 years now, and like she was 2 years sober. She knew me. She was friends with me in the program.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think when she realized, all right, he's actually going to stay sober, like that's when we started to have other people tell us, we think you're a couple. And I'm like, what? I mean, we didn't see it, but we were pretty close. But anyway, when we started dating, like, she's like, it's all about honesty, but it's like nothing should be a secret. Like everything needs to be out in the open. Like you have an issue, talk about it, whatever it is. And now, even with my parents, I think I'm just an open book about everything because I'd rather have them know than wonder. Because that's where, as a father, that I get really wound around the axle, where I think it's what I don't know that drives me nuts. Even if you know the truth and it's harsh, at least you know what it is. There's a way to solve it, maybe.
Yeah.
But when you don't know, man, when I don't know what's going on with my kids, and my wife always jokes that she's like, "You're kind of Al-Anon too, dude. You don't understand that." But I'm like,
yeah, you kind of have to be, right?
Yeah, and I think because I was very protective of my kids, and they were raised in a household where I was an alcoholic, and she was more prescription drugs, and then alcohol later. That I was always trying to make everyone happy. Hence the jovial drunk, right? Like hide what's going on over here. Have fun with the kids over here, or even leave the house and go have fun over here, even if I've got 10 drinks in me, because I don't want them seeing what's going on at home type thing, right? And that, I didn't realize, because I'd never been to Al-Anon anyway, but I just thought, that's a weird mix.
Yeah,
I walk on eggshells. I'm a people pleaser, but I'm also a selfish drunk. Nice combo. Like how do you solve that? And 12 steps can kind of solve anything, I suppose.
So let's talk about your early recovery, for this time, for the ultimate time.
Yeah.
Knock on wood, ultimate time. What does that look like for you when you really start like sort of diving in and doing work on yourself and discovering the things that later you put into the book?
I think it was life-changing in the sense that I just had to realize that I was the problem.
Doesn't that suck?
Yeah, but now define the problem, right?
Right.
Because like I had all these old timers who would point things out to me. Yes, the honesty thing, but like integrity. I remember saying to one of the old timers, like, "You want to go to Denny's tonight?" And I was like, "Maybe." And he's like, "Well, that means no, man. Alcoholic, that means no. So I'll see you next time." I was like, whoa. I said, "That doesn't mean that." He's like, "That's the problem, man. Integrity. If you're going to go somewhere, tell somebody yes, tell somebody no. But don't do that maybe thing. Like, own up to it. If somebody wants you to be somewhere, be there. Don't tell them one thing and then do another." And that was the integrity piece of it. And just like I had to gain a lot of courage to change a lot of things in me that I may not have thought were true, and that was hard for me too. But I think the key to it all, because I had done some step work before that, I didn't mind doing the steps. I didn't even mind looking at myself. I was kind of open to that. I liked recovery in that way. I sucked up the unity. Like I loved going and meeting with other alcoholics. Like that thing was like going to a bar without alcohol, because that was one of the last smoking meetings too. So like we're just ripping cigarettes and talking shit. And
these are my people.
Yeah. Oh my God. It was so perfect. But where I think I was really tripping up was when someone forcefully told me, "You need to do some service work." And they gave me a service role that was very, very pivotal in my sobriety, where we were bringing literature and stuff like that out to different places in schools became kind of my focal point. I don't remember why, but we were bringing young speakers into schools and having them tell their story to a whole auditorium or gym full of people. And it had such an impact on me that, I'm selfishly thinking about like, this is one of the best things this is amazing. Like, how did this come together? And then the really emotional part was when guidance counselors were coming to us and say, we had a line of like 15 kids at our office the next day asking to talk to us. And we didn't know if it was about them drinking or if it was about their parents being alcoholics or whatever. And like, that's when I realized, oh my God, like alcoholics or drug addicts connecting with another drug addict or alcoholic or somebody that's got it in the family are the only two humans that can help each other.
It's without parallel.
Yeah. And that had such an impact on me that I realized I wanted to do some sort of service work, whatever it looked like, even down to writing a book.
Yeah.
To be able to get it out to people and say, listen, you're not alone. You know what I mean? Because I don't know who buys his book. It was never about money anyway, but whoever, I wish I knew who got it. Like, you know what I mean? And I would love to follow up with them, but that's kind of, I don't know, creepy. But
show up at everybody's door.
Yeah, yeah. How'd you like it? It was pretty good. Why the shitty review? No, I'm only kidding. The reviews have been great too, and it was cool because like I felt like I got my story out there, but I didn't tie it to like meetings or a 12-step recovery program. I mentioned that in there, but I'm weird when it comes to traditions. I told you about that before.
Yeah.
So to me, I have trouble. I don't know if it's a learning disorder. I don't know if it's ADHD. Our generation, we never know what the hell
we didn't
had.
know. They just put us in a cage and poked us with sticks. And
Right, exactly. So when I started writing it, I wanted to write about something because when I read our text, let's say, I don't retain information real well. Like I'm one of those people that has to read a page like 5 times.
Yeah, I think it's an ADHD thing.
Right, and people would like recite like a page to me, and I'd be like, how do you know that? Right, so I would be able to apply that first time I read it to my life, but I couldn't retain the information that was in there. I just knew that I recognized things that were similar to me, which is the point, right?
Yeah.
But what I noticed the first probably year I was sober is that the principles, there's a principle attached to each step, and those principles had more of an impact on me. Because let's say on any given day, I could look at the 12 principles that I talk about in this book, and whether it's hope, whether it's faith, courage, integrity, doesn't matter what it was. I can run down that list. And if I feel like not right inside, if something's bothering me, whether it's a person or a thing or whatever, I can look at that list in front of me and go like this, that's the one I suck at today. So if I know that, you can call a sponsor, you can call a friend, you can call whatever, but you'd be like, hey, have you noticed me doing this lately, whatever? And I can work, whether it's step work or whatever, I can work on that thing that I know is missing. A lot of times it comes down to spirituality because we're always surrendering or giving up control and then trying to take it back every fucking day. You know what I mean? Because that's the way we lived before. So it usually comes down to that one. But if all else fails, service work, man. It always brings you back and gets you out of your head.
It does.
You know?
Every little, and it's like every time without question, service work or just doing a little bit of work. If I'm feeling some way about this guy over here, it's because I'm not doing something myself.
Yeah, like, or you spot something in him that's probably you 10 years ago.
Yeah, or 10 minutes ago.
Right.
Yeah,
that's more accurate, yeah.
Because it's it's, and I'm the first one to point out to my sponsees when they come at me with something like that. I'm like, well, what have you been doing? Have you been, have you been doing your readings? You haven't called me in a long time? And then I'm like, oh, fuck, I haven't called my sponsor in a long time. Yeah. I haven't done I haven't even been to a meeting in God knows how long.
It happens.
Like, once you start putting yourself back in there, it's so, maybe that's the addict alcoholic brain. It's like, I want to forget that this is the thing that always works for me without failure.
We move at the speed of pain. And that's, I don't know why that is. And it's horrible because that's what I have to feel in order to go do something. I'll still delay it 3 months.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Once I feel the pains, I'm like, nah, I can't be that.
Yeah.
I can't be I'm an asshole. It's got to be something different, right? That's for me, that's my struggle. And I don't call my sponsor a lot because I immediately remember what he would tell me to do anyway. It kind of gets repetitive. My hardest thing with people that I'm working with that are newly sober is that I'm like, you have zero balance in your life. Mm-hmm. Like, you got to do a routine. At least that's what worked for me. We can only pass on what worked for us anyway, right? But like for me, like I'm up at 6 a.m. before anybody's up in the house, and now it's just my wife and myself anyway. But like, I got to get up, drink coffee. Like if I'm not doing like a 15 half prayer, half meditation thing, like on at least Monday through Friday, like I'm gonzo. I'm treating somebody like a jerk by noon, and I can see the difference. So everything's routine with me, whether it's working out, whether it's reading, whether it's talking to other alcoholics. Like we set a time all the time to meet with people, because half the time when one of your sponsees or somebody has a problem, you walk out of there feeling better. You hope they do. But in general, it kept you sober.
Yeah, it's about me.
Right. And it comes down to that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I walk away every time like, why the F why don't I do more of this? Mm-hmm. And yet I'll still avoid it, which doesn't make sense because with us, we're feel-good junkies. We know we feel good after helping somebody else or even somebody helping us. Why don't we go after that with such a drive like we did drugs or alcohol?
Right.
That will always baffle me. But I am reminded all the time of how my wife always says how she has a brain that wants to kill her body. And I said,
Damn,
okay.
I never heard that one before. I like that. I'm going to steal that one.
She'll tell you everything she ever learned had nothing to do that came from her. It all came from somebody else, right? Just like all of our sayings, whatever. I don't remember where she got that one. That one in sober sucks less, I think. Or sober, shit, I already forgot the saying. Damn it. But anyway, I'll have to think of it later.
I get the gist of it, though.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I wish Joseph, my co-host, who's usually here.
It sucks better sober.
Sucks better sober.
Yeah. Yeah. But now that we've, like, you're as far in as you are with sobriety, like, that almost doesn't fit anymore. Like, it doesn't suck at all. Like, don't get me wrong. I have ups and downs.
The things that, and it's funny, too. I noticed this recently. Like, I was having whatever the problems were. See, I don't even remember what the problems were. And I'm like, my problems are so tiny today. I mean, knock on wood, like they are so tiny today.
Yeah.
I forgot to pay a bill. I need to pay a bill. Like, it's going to affect my credit score. And it's like, son of a bitch, you have a credit score. Like, yeah, like these things, but it's still like, it still weighs on me the same though.
Yeah.
As much as the big problems do. But thank God, like, the problems now are like the solutions are usually not that far away from my problems now. To whereas before, the distance between my problem and a solution, it wasn't anything good.
Right.
You know, it's like, who do I have to rob to not be sick?
The mystery is
the
when you feel pain, why does it take us so long to go? I won't understand that. And don't get me wrong, I bet you know guys that they are full force program. Like they're, you know, big book thumpers, whatever you want to call them. Like they live and breathe it. But I don't feel like they have any fewer problems than I do. They just must tackle them quicker, I guess. I don't know.
Could be. Do you still, what's your meeting attendance like? Is it still pretty regular? Or
twice a week, which it should be more, but that's about what I do.
Yeah, that's
sometimes 3 if it's like a birthday night or something kind of weird thing.
I travel so much that I went to my home group. I went last night to my home group.
They give you shit?
No, these are good people. And it's right in this same complex too. It's like like 5 doors down from here. And I went in there and I was just like, oh, wow, you guys moved. Because I had to look, because I had driven by the old place, which is still in the same complex. But I was like, oh, there's no stickers on the door. There's no smoking sign outside. So I go in. I'm like, oh, you guys moved over here. How long has it been? They're like 6 months. And I was just like,
I was going to say, hoping it wasn't a year.
It was 6 months. But I mean, I go to meetings. I spend a lot of time in Florida, which is where I got.
So you go to meetings in other cities though, right?
Correct. Yeah, I do go to
kind of fun doing that.
It is. And I get this like kind of vagabond feeling, but the accountability is not there. Because if I don't go to my home group, but once, let's say 10 times a year, if I'm not showing up, they're not like, oh, fuck, where's Jason?
I was in Breckenridge last week and went to a random meeting. They gave me a 12-year chip because it was that day.
Oh, it was your anniversary?
It was the actual day, the 7th. And I couldn't believe they just whipped out a coin. They were like, no, you need to do it here. And it was a speaker meeting. So I was trying to be quiet and stay out of the, limelight. I think my wife is the one who said, oh, it's his birthday actually today.
Wow, that's great.
That was a weird feeling. And I was so grateful for it because I'm like, that's who I need to be on sobriety days.
I got to pick up my 8-year medallion. They didn't have it, but I got to pick up a key tag in Vancouver this year, which was pretty cool. Yeah, because it was like being somewhere different and to raise your hand.
Was it?
That was June 7th.
Oh, so not freezing.
I mean, it was still cold, but it was nice for us, though. Yeah. It was really nice.
That's cool. I mean, if you can do that, it's like, it really is kind of like family no matter where you are.
It is.
That's appalling to me because I wouldn't say I'm not a people person, but can you be? I don't know. I guess because you're in sales, you're forced to do it. But in general, like I like being alone.
Yeah.
I still do. You know what I mean? Like I have to force myself to go to meetings sometimes, and I have a great time when I'm there. I'm not sneaking out the door early.
Right. But it's just
getting there,
getting up, getting ready, getting yourself physically motivated to go where you know you're going to have a great time. It's that brain.
It is. Brain that wants to kill your body.
Yeah. Well, we're running short on time here, man.
Sorry, man.
No. I want you to come back because this is, I think, I wish Joseph was here because I think you guys would have definitely, I would have gotten to sit back. But next time, especially because you're local. And I mean, you said that your kid worked for Recovery Unplugged, right? Your daughter?
Yeah. In fact, my youngest daughter is at Emerge Grace Recovery, which is like 3 miles from here.
Oh,
so
cool.
I was out visiting her. I went to stop by and saw her and then just kind of hightailed it over here. So yeah, whenever you guys, I mean, I'm not trying to invite myself. I'm just saying.
No, I'm inviting you.
Yeah.
You come on, we can talk about the book a little bit more. So, but before we leave, we do have what's called rapid fire question time.
Holy shit.
Are you ready?
Okay. I won't say yes, but I'll take whatever you throw at me.
It's rapid fire question time.
So Ben & Jerry's comes to you.
Yeah.
And they say, you have an ice cream. You get to pick what's in it and what it's called. What's in it and what's it called?
I think in it is probably everything you can think of, but it's got to have peanut butter. It's got to have chocolate, regardless of anything.
Okay.
And let's call it Red Sox Nation Sensation.
There you go. Nice.
I had to sit and think about it for a while, but chocolate and peanut butter have to be in it. It's got to be chocolate ice cream, too, not with vanilla.
You're having a shitty day. What is your go-to feel-good song? Could be a guilty pleasure.
Oh, I've got to go with a song that I listened to on repeat the first week I was sober. This last time I got sober. I listen to it every year, and anytime I'm down, it's Waiting for My Real Life to Begin by Colin Hay.
I'll have to listen to it. I don't think I've ever heard that one.
It absolutely blows your mind, because when you hear it, I don't know what the hell he wrote it about. But it was me.
It was written about you.
Yeah, that's how egomaniacal. Yeah, like I think Colin Hay sat down and wrote this about my fucking drinking problem.
I'll have to check that out. So, besides getting sober, have you ever had a supernatural experience? UFOs, ghosts, Bigfoot?
Oh, I thought you were going to say more like miracle, supernatural.
I think it's a miracle.
Yeah, I have. I had a supernatural to the sense where I've been to my grandparents. They were the sweetest people in the world. Neither alcoholics, not on the Irish side. And every time I go to their cemetery, the first time I went with my oldest daughter, and it was pouring down rain. And I walked out to the gravesite, and we put some flowers on it. And then we stand up, and we're leaving the cemetery, and a bald eagle flies over us as we're walking to the church where they spent their entire lives. And then that eagle circled the gravestone.
Oh, shit.
And took off.
That's pretty cool.
I don't know what was happening that day, but that was absolutely insane to watch it happen.
Birds? I don't know. Yeah, I have some weird thing with...
Bald eagle, too.
Yeah, bald eagle. That's the top notch of them.
Right. Well, then somebody told me later, they ruined the whole thing. They were just like, well, bald eagles are pretty common around here. I'm like, well, shut the fuck
Shut up, asshole.
Yeah, but no, there's too many miracles in sobriety to talk about those. But yeah, I mean, I had some massive, massive head injuries as a kid due to some crazy stuff that it's almost nuts that I'm alive.
Wow.
And that was way before drinking. So I always thought, even at the age of 6, 7, 8, I'm supposed to be here for some reason. I'll figure it out. I mean, I remember thinking that at 8 or 9 years old.
Wow.
Like, why am I here?
So when was the last time you had to stop yourself and say, I'm being the asshole here?
Okay. That's a real personal one. I didn't get along very well in the end years with my ex-wife. And my youngest daughter took that hit hard when she died on January 1st, 2023. And I felt like I had pushed her in some sense to not, I made her feel like she couldn't come to me talking about it because I wanted to just move past it because I'm happily married now. So it was like a weird thing for my brain to process it all. Never mind try to also help her process hers. And this is in the middle of her going through her horrible bout with alcohol, before she went to treatment and all of that. So, or while she was going to treatment. So you're missing the boat somewhere on giving them the best years of their life and making sure they're okay, both mentally, physically, spiritually, all that kind of stuff. And I just don't feel like I handled that well. They might say otherwise, but I felt like I let them down during that, and that took some work. First time I ever saw I'd never seen a therapist in my life.
At least you did some work on yourself, though.
I did. Yeah. I had to look inward on that one because apparently I wasn't handling it real well either. Never mind trying to help both daughters get through it.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's a pretty tough one.
Yeah.
All right. Finally, final question. What's the secret?
The secret is communication, whether it's a friend of yours, whether it's with God, whether it's with your significant other. Communication, whether in your job or not, everything in communication works.
So let's, give us a little bit about your book, where we can find it.
Sure. Like I said, it's about the 12 principles that are attached to those steps. So anybody, whether it's addiction or alcoholism, it could be a food addiction, a sex addiction, it doesn't matter. I think it applies to anybody, that it's those principles we learned as a child that our parents probably instilled in us if you had a decent upbringing. I happen to get them to a 12-step program, but I put them in this book. So if people don't want to do that type of sobriety, if they want to just find a way and some points in life or some milestones that they have to hit, I set this up like a journal. So when you do each chapter, like first chapter will be honesty, like we talked about. At the end of it, I give you a list of questions that you have to ask about yourself. And it can fit anybody of any addiction or any problem in their life, I think. It worked for me. And I think it's not a big book either. It's not intimidating when you pick it up. It's pretty short, but it's pretty to the point. And I put a lot of my life experiences in there because I'd rather put it out in the open. Like, this is how dumb I was acting here. This is what I did that was stupid, or this is how I felt. It's out there and it's easy to get. And if you like it, I hope you do. If you're in a family that has an alcoholic, it's probably a little blunt to hand a book like that to somebody, but leave it on a nightstand or something. I don't know what you do with it, but I mean, I think a lot of people, yeah, I wouldn't do that, but you could. I think a lot of people bought it for their family and passed it on. And like I said, I always wanted to know what that result was like, but I'll never know, and it doesn't matter. You just throw it out in the universe, man, see where it goes, and hopefully it helps somebody, because I think writing it helped me stay sober. And if it helps anybody else stay sober, that was the whole point, man.
Yeah.
Find happiness. Like, I like that word trudging because of where it is in the book, but I don't want to trudge for the next 30, 40 years. Well, I'm not going to live that long anyway, but in general, I don't want to trudge through it. I know it can't be a pink cloud, but I know it can be a happy, pretty stable, and very normal place to live. And that's, if it's boring now, then I fucking like boring.
Like we like to say here, there's 1,000 ways in and 1,000 ways out, and we hope you find yours.